to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at the Friday 14-game slate. It's a big one, but overall fun after having a tough pitching day yesterday. We actually have some guys to pay up for, which means actually having to dive down for value.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of people are going to be on Syndergaard tonight. Probably, in cash, who knows, but it's going to be high. Even at that price, I'm probably going to be in that high percentage as well. So, jump in there. It's fine. And then we're going to dive through some values that you can look at tonight for matching lineups with him.
Yeah, definitely. And starting with catcher, a spot you're kind of looking at value. And two guys I really like here at 3,400, Matt Wieters and Stephen Vogt, both taking on pitchers that have struggled with lefties and in very favorable ballparks. Houston, nice for lefty power. Baltimore, obviously nice for lefty power. So I think Wieters is kind of your more consistent guy who, hitting 381 over the last 10 games there. And Vogt's kind of more of your tournament guy, but I'm fine with them both in cash anyway.
Yeah, I'm leaning Vogt there, but either one's a solid option. I also think Brian McCann in that same range is also a guy I'm looking at. I don't think yesterday it was kind of like you wanted to pay pretty much all the way down 2,500 Chris Iannetta, like that type. I actually think this is a pretty decent range for catcher tonight. So I think that's kind of the way I'm leaning. Obviously there's going to be super cheap catchers just like every night, but I'm definitely leaning into that range if I can,
Yeah, I'm kind of treating tonight as more of a balanced approach. If there is something that opens up later in the day, I'm definitely going to be all over it and try and maybe bump up another tier 2 to a tier 1 guy later on in my lineup. But at the moment, it's hard to kind of get away from Vogt at Wieters at those prices, just in those spots.
Right.
Outside of that, I like the McCann call. I think GPP-wise, he's going to get some low ownership. Nice park factors there. It's been struggling, so I think people are kind of going to be off that wagon. And as far as for paying up, I can't really see paying up for a Posey at 45 or Wilson Ramos is a guy who I'll take a look at in tournaments because, maybe if I do make a lineup where I'm paying down at pitching, it's kind of easier to slot him in a good spot there.
Yeah, Posey's sort of a contrarian tournament play at the most tonight. He really hasn't paid off his price that much lately, and over 4K, it's usually a fade catcher night.
Yeah, definitely. So really, you're kind of looking at when lineups come out and see if you can kind of find a guy in the 6 or 7 spot in a good matchup. And at the moment, diving below 3K, I don't see many guys worth mentioning. Looking at first base here, and once again, 5,500 Ortiz. It seems like you know what you're going to get night in and night out, which is quality game.
Yeah, a home run's 14 points, so that's hitting value in one swing right there. But no, obviously you can't expect him to hit a home run every night. He's done it in 3 of his last 4 games, but yeah, no. He is worth it, but it might not make sense for your lineups tonight, unfortunately. So I'm probably not going to have as many shares as I want, but that's not because he's not a good play.
Yeah, and I kind of have a problem paying up for a lot of these guys tonight.
I'm not
52 is tough, even though I like that matchup. That's just a tough price tag for him, and kind of the same goes for a Brandon Belt, a Miguel Cabrera type plays. I kind of want to spin down a little bit.
And sorry, Will Myers. I love you in the Padres for what you've been doing the last few days, but I can't get on the Padres train. That just seems like it's destined to fall off the rails and crash into like a stadium or something. I don't know. I can't do the Padres again, man.
Yeah. They've priced them up a little bit here on DK. Maybe that's saying something. Maybe they are going to score 13 runs again tonight.
I get it. I do think this is a good matchup tonight. I don't know. Do we trust the historical splits here, or do we kind of just go with what they've been doing the last few days? Because obviously they've been just destroying the ball. Like like best offense the last few days. So I don't know. It's what do you think?
I mean, you got to look. I mean, they faced two bad lefties. I mean,
Yeah,
two bad lefties, and they're facing another bad lefty here. So it's kind of like,
I know.
well, I mean, I'm not going to go all aboard, but like later on, I'll like I
Mm,
like a Matt Kemp. I like his price tag and
hmm
kind of being a way to be different in the outfield. But overall, yeah, I mean, Will Myers over 5K is a little ridiculous. I, but at that point, I mean, I don't necessarily hate it.
They're certainly in play. I won't deny that. I don't have the heart for it. I don't know.
Who
They
does?
are a good
Who does
play.
have the heart for rostering Padres?
Those 2% people that have been winning GPPs the last 2 days. That's who.
Spinning down
um,
here, this is kind of a range I don't mind tonight. Is kind of Victor Martinez at 44. I'm liking Hanley at 41 to get some Red Sox exposure as kind of a come down option. Hasn't
mhm.
hasn't had really terrible success or against Dickey. He's been fairly average, and right-handers usually hit knuckleballers better. So I think he's kind of a good way to get some exposure to that game.
Definitely. Yeah, he's always the contrarian swerve off of Ortiz, and tonight's a pretty solid night to do that, I think.
Yeah, and outside of that, I mean, this Pirates offense is projected for some decent runs tonight. Um, but I mean, they've been fairly held at bay over the last couple of weeks here, and been very boomer bust. But like a guy like John Jaso for 3,700, I don't mind him just because
Hmm
Weaver hasn't been good against lefties. 3.32 WOBA since 2014 allowed a 1.44 runs per nine. Upside wise, I mean, he's kind of lacks a little bit, but overall, I mean, he's kind of a steady cash game guy,
Yeah.
especially if you're paying up on the hill.
Yeah, definitely a solid cash game guy. And again, I'm not afraid to go back to Pittsburgh in terms of lineup construction. Maybe not stacking fully, and I'm probably not going to be doing as many tournament lineups as I did last night just because there's a lot stronger options in terms of pitching and stuff. But yeah, I think he's a solid option. Adrian Gonzalez been struggling a lot this year. I think he's an interesting tournament pivot against Teheran.
Yeah, if you look at, I mean, obviously he struggled with lefties for most of his career. I mean, you go back 3 years, it's 3.42 up allowed. He's been solid this year, so I think that is kind of a hey, if you want to look at historically, yes, maybe he has a bad game against the Dodgers team because of all the lefties, but right now, I mean, he's pitching pretty well. So I think you do limit yourself to just tournaments where maybe in
Right.
the past you would have been looking at the Dodgers team as kind of a value in cash games.
hmm
So looking at second base here, and well, I mean, it's hard to look at like these Mariners as we have in the past. Just going up against you, Darvish, it's kind of a tough matchup. Um, Dustin Pedroia is probably the one I'm going to be paying up for if I do pay up in GPPs, just because one, he's red hot, and obviously Dickey. I mean, not your strongest arm going tonight.
No, definitely not. Yeah, if we're paying up here, I think that's definitely a guy we're looking at. I think Murphy against Finnegan's interesting. That's definitely a guy I'm looking at. But yeah, in terms of the high end options, I think Pedroia out of those three is who I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I like Daniel Murphy a lot. I like this Nationals offense quite a bit. Some of them are a little overpriced than I would like, but um,
Mhm.
you can't knock the spot, especially in Great American Ballpark. I mean, those are great numbers there. And getting a bad pitcher, also getting a bad bullpen to target for 9 innings is going to be fun.
Right.
So, spinning down, I still don't mind Josh Harrison at 3,700. I think I am going to go back to some Pirates value here tonight just because, one, Weaver is not a good arm, and you can kind of take some one-offs from this game to save yourself.
hmm Yeah, definitely. Weaver's definitely a guy I'm targeting tonight. He just isn't strong, so Josh Harrison for sure. I kind of like Panic again. I'm not afraid of Wainwright at this juncture. I guess he has turned it around a little bit, but again, he has been vulnerable earlier this season, so I got to think about in a contrarian sort of way.
Definitely. And one guy, Jurickson Profar, 3,200. I know Walker's kind of a stronger right-hander than than some of the other guys in this slate. But Profar, I mean, hitting leadoff at that price tag, you can't really knock it. I mean, he's done pretty well to step into that role with the Odor, suspension, and I'll definitely kind of go back to that wagon.
Definitely.
One other name, I mean, I kind of like these Oakland lefties here. Jed Lowry's another one at 3K, kind of a terrific punt option. Just because you look at Fister, I mean, 327 WOBA allowed since 2014. Low ground ball rate. You like that ballpark. So Lowry's a guy who I think can kind of really easily pay off that price tag.
And again, folks, Jed Lowry and Brett Lowry, not brothers, not related, don't even spell their last name the same way. So that's a pretty wild realization I had a few weeks ago. I was like, Jason, dude, this is wild, man. They don't even spell their name the same way. Anyway, let's continue.
Because
I might have thought
really, I mean,
I might have thought they were the same person, to be honest.
Apparently you assume that the majority of the league is just brothers, apparently, and it was odd. It was so odd. Like, it would have been different if you realized that they were brothers, but the fact you're like, oh, wait, they're not.
Huh. Yeah, no, I assume brothers unless told otherwise. Yeah, for sure. First name relation, last name semi-relation,
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what a time. What a time to be alive.
Indeed.
Looking at the hot corner here, and I think you can kind of stick in the mid-range more so than actually pay up. I mean, Donaldson would be kind of a contrarian move. Obviously, he hammers lefties. Price hasn't been quite the same this season, but I kind of like Anthony Rendon at 45. I like this Nationals team. You look at Rendon, WOBA over 400 against lefties, and I think in this ballpark, he's very playable.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and especially with the name power up top. Even though like Machado and Donaldson are definitely going to keep his price and ownership percentage down, So I think that's a nice way to go. Again, I think it's okay to go back to Castellanos tonight, even though he's been struggling the past few days. Other than that, it's going to be tough to fit these guys in, though. For sure. So I think we should look more towards value here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you can kind of start to spin down with the Danny Valencia at 4K. I mean, starting to heat up again, 368 over the last 10 games. I mean, he's been a guy, when he gets on a tear, he was in a small, a tear where he hit 5 homers in like 3 games, and then he hit 200 for the next 2, and then all of a sudden he's like back up hitting over 350. So, I mean, this guy's been fairly consistent this season. And Fister's on an arm really that I'm shying away from. Been fairly average against righties over the last couple of years. And I like that game for offense tonight.
Yeah, maybe not in terms of a full A stack, but I think there's a lot of one-offs you can definitely use in that game that'll provide some upside for you. God, I wanna use some of these Cardinals, but I just can't. I don't think it's a good idea against Cueto. So Matt Carpenter out.
Joe Kang, 3,800, not a bad price tag for him against Weaver.
Yeah,
definitely. I like him quite a bit, and you're kind of going lower, and it's kind of getting tough to like a lot of these guys because really, I mean, they are in a tougher matchup. I mean, you've looked at Turner. I mean, Tehran's tough on right-handers. Hernan Perez is a guy you use for value, but facing Velasquez, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, you're kind of look at that Marwin Gonzalez, Trevor Plouffe range, and you definitely think about it. Michael Franco hit a homer last night, so I think there's some guys you can sort of figure out with in this range, but they're not obviously optimal options. But again, if you're paying up for both pitcher spots, that's kind of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I think this is another position where if you do want to pay down below 3,500, I mean, you kind of wait till Lions come out and see what shakes up and see if you get someone in a spot that's better than normal.
Right, like an Ichiro yesterday, baby. Woo!
You just love your precious Ichiro, don't you? Looking at shortstop here, and I think it's easy tonight that Bogaerts is the top option, but the price tag's obviously high. But overall, I mean, against Dickey, he's locked in right now. It's kind of a another tough fade, but price considered, I think you can kind of spin down still.
Yeah. Obviously he has that huge upside. But I, it's going to be tough to pay up for him again, especially, I mean, 53, that's really exaggerated for what you're looking for with the pitching. I mean, we talked about a few options, Pomeranz as a pay down option, but even the pay downs on this slate aren't as cheap as say yesterday or something like that. So you're not going to be able to fit in a full Coors stack into any of your lineups, you know? So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be having much Bogarts tonight.
Yeah, but I think he's just kind of that honorable mention is the top
Yeah,
guy.
absolutely.
Because when you got Carlos Correa facing Jesse Hahn at 39, that kind of sits more in a range where I feel much more comfortable going.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good call. He's definitely in the range where he's affordable. Correa's obviously been better than what he's produced so far this year, so you kind of like grabbing those guys anyway.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like I'm kind of bummed that this Rays game might get postponed, just because there is some big weather concerns there. Because a lot of them do have some decent value, like a Brad Miller type. I mean, for GPPs against Ricky Nolasco, if someone else like Amada or Beckham somehow fit into lineup, you could kind of punt there.
Yeah, definitely in play. That is unfortunate. I wasn't aware of that, so you might have just ruined my morning. But other than that, I guess we should just move on from there. Thanks, bud.
I'm sorry. I got to be the bearer of bad news, and maybe I should just start sending you a little Mother Nature email in the morning to prepare you for the weather concerns.
I need you in like a cloak, like a holy and like light behind you with my weather update in the morning. I think that would be delightful.
Oh, Jesus. Oh man! Outside of that, punting here, I think Profar is the guy who you can spin down to 3,200 if you take that, that range there.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he's in the cheat sheet today. So, on both sides. So, yeah, he's a really nice play in my opinion.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit. Outside of that, I mean, as Drew Cabrera, 3,400. Once again, I'm not intrigued with a lot of these punt options. Alcides Escobar would be a guy in the past, but facing Salazar, it's tough. And you get a lot of these guys, and they just hit the bottom of the order that you don't really like a ton.
And my boy, Alamedis Diaz, 2,700 tonight. Hot light special. It's kind of like a gas station hot dog where you know it's not a good idea, but you might do it anyway. That's what I'm looking at tonight. I might throw him in a lineup, even though Cueto's like not targetable right now. But I kind of got a thing for like these Cardinals tonight, like Piscotty's price. It's like I kind of want to just throw him in anyway, but I'm probably not.
Yeah, because you're going to drive, 15 miles down the road, which would be about the fifth or sixth inning, and you're like, oh my God, he's 0 for 2, and he's not going to get me a single point, is he?
Oh my God, my belly's rumbling. This was a bad idea.
Yeah. Looking at outfield here, and I think this is a spot where you can kind of sit in the mid-range, and I think you're going to have to with the pitching that's on today's slate. And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I do like Trout the most out of the top end options. Obviously, Liriano struggled with control this year, so I think, he's at least going to get some walks at the very, very least, and I think he's got some power against Liriano, so that's a good matchup. But yeah, I think you pretty much cross out all those 5K guys if you go Syndergaard.
Yeah, you're even if you lock in Syndergaard and Pomeranz, that's 3,600 left over. Matt Kemp was the guy I'm talking about just because he's hit lefties well. He's hitting well of late. And I think at 4,600, he's kind of a spin-off as far as some of those guys around him in GPPs. And, there's nothing like getting a nice late-night Matt Kemp homer to kind of shoot you up the leaderboard there.
Definitely.
But if you're kind of lower, you look at this Pirates team, McCutchen would have been in a nice price, but day-to-day, dealing with the thumb issue. Outside of that, Jason Worth, 4,100, Wob over 400 against lefties this season. I like him kind of hitting at the top of the order there in Washington. it's not a bad situation for those Washington bats at all.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Washington's an interesting stack option tonight. Obviously, beyond even the starter, Finnegan, you're looking at that bullpen and licking your chops pretty much every night. Do I think they have 10-run upside like what you pretty much have needed the last few days? No. But I do think the heart of this order has quite a bit of upside tonight. So if you can fit them in, I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. You kind of look at some of these other guys. I mean, JD Martinez, I don't mind at 3,900. You look at Rodon, hasn't been great against righties. I mean, 350 WOBA allowed in his career, an average ground ball rate. So overall, I mean, he at that price, he's certainly a play. Adam Duvall, I think, is a great GPP swerve just at 39. I mean, obviously coming off a decent series in cores. But I mean, Joe Gonzalez is susceptible to getting beat up at times. We've seen it, this year. So I don't mind a guy like Duvall who's hit lefty as well.
Yeah, easily the most confusing price for me was Taijuan Walker, 5,900. Are we targeting him? Or are we kind of just letting that slide? Like I'm looking at Mazzara, as someone.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at him, he's been relatively inconsistent of late. And I mean, he has for most of the season. He did have a strong start. But yeah, of late, I mean, you look at this ballpark and a lot of the lefties that he has to deal with. And I do like that call. I think there are some decent Rangers options. And I'm mainly kind of looking at Profar and Mazzara there as the two top ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if there's any price indication that Taijuan Walker is going to get lit up tonight, it might be that 5,900.
Right. That was surprising to me. Either way, Cameron Maben, 3,500. Still batting over 400. So he's chilling there.
Kinsler sat out yesterday, but I think, still a top 7 team for the Tigers isn't a bad option.
Mm-hmm.
Coco Chris, 3,700 is the guy I'm looking at, kind of another A's guy, hitting pretty well this year and showing some power. I mean, obviously, I don't expect him to continue at that rate, but you look at this ballpark, you look at this matchup against Pfister, I think 3,700 is a nice play for a guy who's likely going to hit leadoff.
And it's very nice to see Carlos Gonzalez at 3,200, but don't do it.
You don't think so?
No.
Worth a GPP shot?
Maybe worth a GPP, but I think we take a break from the Rockies tonight.
I agree.
Pomeranz is your boy, so. But yeah, I think the ownership's still going to be decent just because of what they've been doing the last few days. And sort of, I mean, that price is kind of very endearing, I would say. But
it is. I mean, the guy's had 6 homers in the last 10 games, and I think that's going to draw some ownership to him a little bit just because of the price tag as far as GPPs. Because I think I'm instantly thinking if I'm not using Pomeranz, which I won't be because I'll have a lot of shares of them. But overall, I mean, if you're not and you just kind of want to toss in a cheap guy, I mean, that's a big name at a cheap price tag.
Mm-hmm.
Who is a one of the top hitters.
Right.
So. I mean, outside that, some guys we've been dealing with of late as far as value, like Franklin Gutierrez, 31, Matt Holliday, 31. Not in good spots facing Darvish and Cueto. It's kind of tough to pay down there.
Right, exactly. I'm okay with some Cleveland shots today. Jose Ramirez, sort of guys like that. I think they're good one-offs. Volquez obviously isn't perfect, so I think he's going to make a few mistakes tonight, as he has the last pretty much the whole year in every start. So I think those are interesting one-offs as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. He's a guy I'm looking at. And another GP, I mean, Justin Upton has been completely lost this season. 215, I mean, only 3 homers, but 2,700, it's starting to get to the time where it was like Adam Jones on FanDuel earlier this season where he was like 2,400 and struggling, and you're just trying to find that game he hits his homer. And at that price tag, you're getting a quality bat for as far as a track history perspective against a lefty that can be bad at times. So it's worth a shot.
again, I think you're willing to take the 0 sort of 1 or 2 days if you get the payoff that third day. I think that's kind of how you have to play that in terms of process. Like it might not hit today, but just like with Adam Jones, his worth it, and then obviously he came out of that bad streak and had a really nice few days that paid off for you huge. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at with him now.
Yeah, I think so. And at 2,700, it makes it, if he does get to a 0, it's so much easier to stomach at that price tag.
Right. Exactly.
So that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.